This is feedback for Ingrida and Margariti for the speaking listening exam that we did on Tuesday. Margariti, you were student A, Ingrida, you were student B. And Margariti, you started the initial conversation on the first part of the exam, the discussion. You started by saying, I know that you're working, I'd like to know, and then you continued with the question, but you didn't complete the question, and you had to be helped a little bit by me. So I had to simplify the question a little bit more. That's for both of you, for Margariti and for Ingrida. So we need to work a little bit on the question, to listen carefully to the question and see what the question is asking. You later went on to say we need money to live. Obviously, health is important, and we don't have good health, we'll have problems. Talking about having a good family, easy, good children, talking about all of these things. And then you asked Ingrida, and Ingrida also wanted to answer. She had to be helped. Ingrida, you had to be helped a couple of times by me, so I had to simplify the question. Again, we need to try and listen to the question carefully and see what the question is asking from us. Ingrida, you said, I like visiting my friends, but I can't remember you saying anything else. So the first part, Margarita was doing a lot of talking, but Ingrida, you were mainly just listening. So unfortunately, in the first part of the exam, both of you didn't do very well. You failed that part of the exam, but it's something that we can work on, hopefully, for later. Then we moved on to the presentation. Margariti, being student A, you started first. You were talking about modern life. You said, firstly, I'd like to speak about why it's important to spend time with other family and with other people. It's important because we need to help and discuss with others, to be social. You talked about the second point, which was people work a lot and they don't have free time, they're looking after their family, etc. You mentioned the third point, that if you have a program in your life, that's how you can meet up with your family, with other people, discuss what you've been doing, etc. So you had a very clear plan. You gave a very good presentation, excuse me, and you said the alternative, which was what you would suggest, how you would suggest people make time to be able to spend time together. So that was a very good presentation from you, Margariti. Ingrida, when you started your presentation, you also had a clear plan. Firstly, you wanted to talk about people having money, big houses, etc. But this doesn't necessarily help you to be happy, because not all things can make happy for us, you said. Big family and good relations are what can make us happy. You gave your opinion, you gave your reason, and then you gave an example, and that is exactly what you should do in the exam. So that was really good. The second point you mentioned, Ingrida, in your presentation, without spending money, you can do outdoor sports, you can volunteer, do jobs, lots of examples again you mentioned, which was really good. And in the third part also, you mentioned that everybody can have a hobby, and that's how they can spend their time and be happy. So the presentation for both of you ladies was really, really good. Ingrida, you needed to ask questions from Margariti after her presentation, and you said, I agree with you. Do you think nowadays it's easy for young people to have relationships and be together? That was a fantastic, a really, really good question, Ingrida, that you asked from Margariti. It was a very good level 1 appropriate question. Margariti, when you needed to ask your question from Ingrida, you also asked a very good question. You asked, if you win the lotto next day, or you were talking about Euro Millions, what's the first thing you'd like to do? And also, if you don't have any money at all, what would you do, and would you still have the same opinion about people being happy? So both of you ladies, you asked some very deep, very well thought questions, so both of you passed the presentation part of the exam. That was really good. In the listening part, in Margariti, you answered 3 questions correct out of 4. Ingrida, you answered 2 questions correct. 2 questions correct out of 4. And then we moved on to the very last part of the exam, which was the discussions. And the question was about what do you need to look for if you're looking for work. And you had, I think it was 6 points that you had to talk about. You mentioned, Margarita, you mentioned it depends on the job, obviously. You said if you're a woman, I believe you need to work part-time, obviously, because you have family and it's difficult to spend lots of hours. You did a really good job, Margarita, in sharing opinions on this point. You gave your opinion on this point as well. Ingrida, when you were talking about this, you also mentioned hours, pay, promotion, all of these. You listed all the items, Ingrida. In this part of the test, for the discussion, the very last part, the key is we don't need to worry about talking about all 6 parts because we've only got a few minutes. The important part is to talk about one point. For example, working hours. Margariti will talk about it, give her opinion, give her examples, give her reason. And then Ingrida would talk about working hours, again, giving her opinion, her reason, her example. Once both of you ladies have discussed working hours, and then you move on to the next point, for example, which is pay. And again, Ingrida, you talk about pay, Margarita, you talk about pay, and then you'd move on to the next topic. That's what the examiner wants to see, discussions on the same topic when you're talking about the discussion in the last part. Both of you showed very, very good opinions, very strong opinions about the points you talked about, which was really good. After that, was when I joined the conversation and I asked you conversations, but you were very quiet in this part, and so because you were quiet and you didn't really speak much and there was no link between what you were saying, you didn't really pass the very, very last part of the exam. The presentations that you gave, ladies, were very good. The questions that you asked after the presentations were fantastic. The discussion you had after the presentation was good. We still need to work on it, how to improve it. The important thing is, in the very first part, when we are given the question, it's very important to understand what the question is asking of us. And then once we've understood the question, then we can start answering. In answering the question, I need to give my opinion. I need to give the reason for my opinion. If I can, I need to give an example. And then I need to pass the conversation on to my partner and say, what do you think? What's your opinion? And she or he also will give their opinion. And that's how we have a good, balanced conversation. Okay? So, ladies, both of you passed this exam, but you just passed, and I know that you can do much better. You've got fantastic presentation skills and question skills. I'd like you to try and work on your listening and also the discussions as well, please. I hope you found this feedback useful, and I will hopefully see you next week. Bye bye.